All right, my other review for today is a book I've talked about in class, and this one is one of my favorites. It's called Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry. This is another one I taught in my old school. Just so you know, we did a lot of books at Holy Child in New Mexico, probably about eight or nine books a year. We just plowed through them. Just so you know, in case you're wondering how we did so many books at my old school, we just had a different program. And this was one that my students loved. They ate it up. It's exciting, it's tense, it's funny, it's powerful, and you're going to learn some great history and be presented with some great virtues. Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry takes place in 1930s Mississippi, rural Mississippi, and it's about a young black family told from the perspective of the daughter, who, if I remember right, she's about 9 or 10 years old. And I cannot remember her name, but she and her brothers, it starts off with them walking to school, and it's a muddy day, and they have to walk to their own school where they have separate segregation. So the African-American kids go to one school, the white kids go to the other school. So they have to go to the school with the African-American kids, and they don't even get a bus. And it starts off with where we already set up when we see the conflict within the first few pages as they're walking to school. And the bus comes by full of all the white kids, and the bus driver will deliberately swerve so that he can make sure that the tire sprays mud all over the family, the kids as they're walking by, the African-American kids. And so that sets up that you realize the conflict is racism, or that's the theme of it. And the conflict is the kids, the Land family. That's their name is Land, Land family, and it's them versus the white community. And there are so many great characters. There's one, I remember right, his name is Mr. Morrison, and I remember he's this big giant strong dude who comes to live at the family, and he's very intimidating to look at. And there's a great scene where he ends up even like lifting up the front of a car, and of these kind of like of the Ku Klux Klan members, and it's a great scene where he just like gets up, and they're in the car and they're like staring down the Land family, and Mr. Morrison gets out. He just calmly just picks up their car, the front of their car, and like moves them over. And I remember listening to, I remember in the lunchroom walking by and listening to my fourth, fifth boys all in a table together, just yammering on about Mr. Morrison, how much they loved him. And, you know, just because they were really into, this was a group of kids who were really into strength and they all wanted to be big, strong kids. And so they just loved this character, Mr. Morrison. If I remember right, that's his name, Mr. Morrison. It's a great book. It's intense. And it is the sequel to another book that you don't actually have to read. At least I don't think you do. I haven't read any of the other books. I just read that one, Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry. And part of the conflict is they are a family that actually owns land. And they are the only black family in the entire area that happens to own land. And there are other white families that are too poor to own land. And so they resent this family for being better than they are. And it's, there's a lot of great virtues. You see the themes of revenge, but also forgiveness, and how what seems like the thing that's separating, that it seems insurmountable. And yet there's some moments in the book where they see that something bigger happens, and suddenly for them, race doesn't matter anymore. They've got this bigger issue to deal with, and I won't ruin what that is. But I highly recommend Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry. I believe there are a few little swear words, minor swear words, the D word, GD, where, it's just kind of Southern people talking, but nothing else immoral that I can think of. It's historical fiction. You'll learn a lot of great history, and you'll love the characters, and several moments where you can't put the book down because it's so tense. There are some scenes of rather intense intensities with some violence, because you do have the KKK, the Ku Klux Klan. They're called the Night Riders in the book, but they are there, and there is a scene of there is some violence, intense violence, but it's not glorified violence. So it's it's not, isn't this awesome? Somebody's getting beat up, and so in conclusion, highly recommend Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry. This would be a book I would tell every kid to read, boy or girl, fourth grade on up. My adults read it. My wife read it, and they all like it. So have your parents read it. It's a good one, and it's a good one. I always recommend reading the same book as having your parents. The parents and kids read the same books together sometimes, not all the time, but just to have something to share and discuss together. So, Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry. Go read it as soon as possible. Thanks.